Hold two numbers in your head for the next 10 minutes. $88 million and $3.9 million. $88 million is what Cleveland just guaranteed to a 23-year-old wing over 4 years. $3.9 million is what Denver just spent to replace him. The 23-year-old is Peyton Watson. The replacement is DeMar DeRozan. He is 37 years old, entering his 18th season. On the surface, Denver added a 6-time All-Star for the veteran minimum. In reality, they just liquidated their best young perimeter defender. The new CBA left them no other choice. This is not a roster upgrade. This is an asset liquidation disguised as a free agency win. Let's look at the structural math. The 2026 to 2027 salary cap is locked at roughly $165 million. The first apron sits at roughly $209 million. The second apron sits at roughly $221.7 million. Right now, the Denver Nuggets have total cap allocations of roughly $226.6 million. They are roughly $4.9 million over the second apron. For a team employing Nikola Jokic, that number is not a badge of honor. It is a straitjacket. When you operate above the second apron, the rules change. You cannot aggregate contracts in a trade. You cannot take back more salary than you send out. You cannot use the mid-level exception. Your draft picks are frozen. You are effectively paralyzed. You are forced to make lateral moves with minimum salaries. Meanwhile, your competitors use their exceptions to improve. Denver crossed this line last summer. Now they are paying the tariff. Every move this August was a reaction to that overage. Let's specify those restrictions further. Denver cannot trade their 2027, 2028, 2029, or 2030 first-round picks. They are tied up in top 5 protected swaps with Oklahoma City. If they fail to convey a pick by 2029, it becomes a straight swap in 2030. They owe their 2032 first-round pick to Brooklyn. The only first-round pick they actually control is that 2031 selection from Cleveland. But because of the second apron rules, they are forbidden from trading future first-round picks in consecutive drafts. Even if they wanted to package the 2031 pick for a star tomorrow, the CBA legally blocks the transaction. They are structurally immobilized. The Payton Watson transaction is a masterclass in distressed asset management. Last season, Watson shot 41% from 3. He was 23 years old, but he was a restricted free agent coming off a hamstring injury. According to ESPN's Anthony Slater, people inside Denver believed Watson sat out the Minnesota playoff series to protect his pending free agency. His agent, Rich Paul, framed it as standard soft tissue management. Both narratives can exist at the same time. What matters is the leverage it created. Denver reportedly demanded Watson accept a team option worth roughly $17 million. He refused. Cleveland signed him to an offer sheet worth roughly $88 million. Denver refused to match. The timing of the hamstring injury created a classic information asymmetry. Denver's medical staff had the scans. Watson's camp had the scans. The rest of the league had to guess. When a player sits out a playoff series with a soft tissue injury heading into a restricted free agency year, the risk profile shifts entirely. Denver was staring at a scenario where they match a roughly $22 million per year offer sheet for a player who could not suit up in April. Cleveland, sitting safely below the apron, had the balance sheet to absorb that risk. They absorbed it. Denver, staring down a roughly $50 million tax bill if they matched, flinched. In front office terms, Cleveland bought distressed debt. Denver took the equity loss. Cleveland took Watson and gave up an unprotected 2031 first-round pick. They also sent a 2032 second-round pick to Denver. In doing so, Cleveland hard-capped their own operation. Denver took the picks and replaced Watson with DeRozan for the minimum. Here is my read. A 2031 first-round pick conveys the year Jokic turns 36. Denver did not acquire a trade chip to flip for a win-now piece. They acquired a calendar date. They cannot trade that 2031 pick because it is their only remaining first-round asset. Moving it would leave them with zero draft capital for half a decade. They are hoarding a pick they cannot use. Furthermore, look at the mechanics of the trade itself. This was not a simple exchange. Cleveland had to execute a complex 5-team trade just to absorb Watson. They moved Max Strus to the Clippers. They moved Dennis Schroeder to Charlotte. Denver's role in this entire transaction was to act as the bank. They took on the outgoing salary dumps. They absorbed the draft compensation. They provided the exit liquidity for Cleveland's off-season ambitions. Denver did not dictate the terms of this trade. They facilitated it. The alternative was losing Watson for nothing and gaining no capital at all. Enter DeMar DeRozan. Sacramento waived him last month. His camp initially targeted a portion of the mid-level exception. They wanted roughly $8 to $14 million per year. The market offered him silence. He lands in Denver for roughly $3.9 million in cash. His cap hit is roughly $2.4 million. DeRozan is a career mid-range specialist. He averaged 18 points and 4 assists last season, but he shot just 32% from 3 over 2 years in Sacramento. His 12-year streak of averaging 20 points per game ended. The league priced him accordingly. Consider the transactional irony here. DeMar DeRozan has earned roughly $305 million in career salary over 17 seasons. A man with that ledger is now a cap band-aid. He is patching a hole for a front office that mismanaged its tax books. Denver's offense is built on the Jokic-Murray two-man game. That action requires gravity and floor spacing. Watson provided it at 41% from 3. DeRozan does not provide it at 32%. You do not fix a spacing deficit by importing a player defenses will leave open in the corner. The geometry of the NBA half-court does not lie. Jokic operates primarily from the elbows and the short roll. Murray needs the side pick and roll to initiate. To prevent defenses from simply sinking into the paint, the 3 players off the ball must command respect on the perimeter. Aaron Gordon has improved his catch-and-shoot metrics, but he is not a high-volume threat. Cameron Johnson is a shooter, but he functions best as a secondary mover. If DeRozan occupies one of those perimeter spots, defenses will simply ignore him. They will position a defender in the gap. That defender becomes a free safety against Jokic drop passes and Murray's drives. You are subtracting space from an offense that already struggles to generate clean looks in the half-court against elite defenses. In December, DeRozan will drop 20 points on a Tuesday night in Utah. The box score will look efficient, but playoff basketball is a different ledger. Come May, against a top-3 defense, the floor will shrink. Defenses will go under screens on DeRozan. They will pack the paint against Jokic. The spacing bill will come due. Look at the broader construction of this ledger. Jokic carries a cap hit of roughly $59 million this season. Jamal Murray sits at roughly $50 million. 2 players account for 66% of the league's salary cap. Add Aaron Gordon at roughly $32 million. Add Cameron Johnson at roughly $23 million. That is 4 players eating roughly 101% of a standard salary cap. Denver then matched a roughly $12 million offer sheet for Spencer Jones. That pushed them deeper into the luxury tax. They signed Christian Braun to a long-term deal. It averages north of $20 million per season. They added Marvin Bagley and Lonnie Walker on minimum deals. This is not a roster built to win a 7-game series against the West. This is a roster built by an accounting department. They are trying to keep the estimated tax bill around $33 million. They are trying to remain technically compliant with CBA rules. The bench features Tyus Jones. He provides 0 defensive resistance. Julian Strawther is an offensive project. The starting lineup features Murray and Jokic. They are not plus defenders. If Christian Braun does not take a massive leap, Denver will field a bottom 10 defense again. They traded away the one young wing who could have helped them there. Next July, Nikola Jokic becomes eligible for a Supermax extension. It is worth roughly $359 million over 5 years. He has not signed it yet. Jokic has publicly stated he wants to finish his career in Denver. Make no mistake, I believe him. The fear in Denver is not that Jokic leaves in free agency. The fear is the clock. A generational big man's prime has a finite shelf life. Even for a player of his caliber, there are roughly 3 to 4 real title swings left. This current offseason was supposed to be one of them. The looming Supermax extension is not just a number. It is a structural trap. If Jokic signs that roughly $359 million deal next summer, his cap hit will escalate to roughly $72 million by the final year of the contract in 2031 to 2032. He will be 36 years old. If Denver is already paralyzed by the second apron with Jokic making roughly $59 million, what does the roster look like when he makes roughly $72 million? The answer is that it does not look like a roster at all. It looks like a salary cap spreadsheet with one name highlighted in bold. Denver is not building toward that extension. They are just waiting for it to arrive. Instead of swinging, Denver pivoted. They swapped a 23-year-old for a 37-year-old. They hoarded a 2031 pick they cannot trade. They have no first-round picks to move at the deadline. Heavy protections are owed to Oklahoma City. Those protections do not fully resolve until 2030. The front office has no mechanisms left. They cannot use exceptions. They cannot aggregate salaries. Their only recruiting tool is Jokic's gravitational pull. It worked on DeRozan, a player with no other market options. It will not work on the two-way wing this roster actually needs. My verdict? The Denver Nuggets are no longer operating as a championship contender. They are operating as a tax management firm. They happen to employ the best offensive player in the world. The DeRozan signing is not a basketball move. It is a cap band-aid applied to a self-inflicted wound. They traded youth for a future pick because the second apron made keeping the youth unviable. They signed a fading star for the minimum. The minimum was the only aisle of the store they were allowed to shop in. The most revealing part of this entire sequence is the price point. Denver did not spend $10 million on DeRozan. They did not spend $8 million. They spent the absolute legal minimum. That is not a statement of confidence in the player. That is a statement of the team's financial boundaries. When a front office is truly trying to maximize a title window, they push their chips into the center of the table. They take on bad contracts to get good players. They pay the tax repeater penalty. Denver is doing the exact opposite. They are pulling chips off the table, cashing them in for futures, and hoping the dealer keeps dealing them aces. That is not a strategy. That is a prayer. I'll say it plainly. I have watched this script before. The Milwaukee Bucks spent years paying an escalating luxury tax for a declining core. They were trapped by the weight of their own stars' contracts. They convinced themselves that continuity was a strategy. Denver is now filming the sequel. If Denver starts slow this winter, the noise will start. Not from Jokic. He seems committed to the one-team narrative. The noise will come from the fans. They will realize you can lose a superstar's era without ever losing the superstar. You just let the years fall off the calendar. You do it one cheap, defensive-minded off-season at a time. The Supermax will likely get signed next summer, but a max contract is not a championship plan. It is a retention costs. Right now, Denver is paying retention costs without building a contender. Do you think Denver is still a legitimate threat in the West? Or is the Jokic window closing faster than the front office admits? Vote in the comments below. Check the pinned comment for a deeper breakdown of Denver's second apron restrictions.